Welcome back, friends, to another weekly video. In this video, we're going to be talking about hostile takeovers. Before we get started, if you want to email me or ask me a question, you can always send me an email through my website, wolvesandfinance.com. Now let's jump into hostile takeovers. This is an interesting situation in business. A hostile takeover occurs when someone buys a business that does not want to be sold. If you think about it, this is a very bizarre situation. Now, businesses are bought and sold all the time, but usually the business wants to be sold. This is a situation when the business does not want to be sold. It's important that you understand how this can happen, and I think you'll find that hostile takeovers teach us some important lessons about business. So let's start with the corporate structure. Publicly traded corporations issue stock, and the percentage of stock you hold is your percentage of voting rights. So if you own 25% of the stock, you have a 25% vote on major company issues. Now, it's not practical for stockholders to make the day-to-day decisions of running a company, so the stockholders select a board of directors to run the corporation. The stockholders choose the board of directors, and the board of directors hires the CEO. Now, there's different variations on this structure. For instance, a corporation can issue different types of stock with different levels of voting rights. But this is the general corporate structure. The point is that the CEO has to answer to the public. So a publicly traded company has issued investment opportunities to the public. So there's people out there in the public who are buying and selling shares in your company. This means the CEO has a responsibility to the public for how they are running the company. And if the public doesn't like what they're doing, the public can get rid of the CEO. So the public can vote to change the board, and the board can vote to change the CEO. The tricky thing is that a CEO can influence this process. So the CEO normally sits on the board, and the board put forward new potential board members for shareholders to vote on. So there's lots of ways that a CEO can influence this process. And from a practical standpoint, there's just a lot of things they can do to keep themselves in power. So what happens in a hostile takeover? In a hostile takeover, someone wants to buy the business, and you can do this in two ways. You can offer to buy the company outright, or you can purchase a portion of the company's stock. So the first way, you can offer to buy the company outright. So if you know the stock price, you can calculate the value of the company. And if you get financing from a bank for the whole amount, you can go to the shareholders and offer to buy their stock. The second way is purchasing a portion of the company's stock. So you do not have to buy the whole company. If you purchase enough voting rights, you can fire the CEO and put your own team in place. The interesting thing to realize here is that there's a lot of people involved in these decisions. So we tend to think of a CEO as the person who's running the show, but that's not necessarily the case. You can get into these situations where some people want change and some people do not want change. And in a hostile takeover situation, this person is coming in and saying, I want change. And all they've got to do is get enough people on board with this idea, and they can make change happen, whether the CEO wants it or not. Because in most situations, all you need is 51% of the vote to buy a company. In business history, there's a lot of different examples of hostile takeovers, and we can look at these examples. And what we see is that there are three things in common in all hostile takeovers. So if you're planning a hostile takeover, you're going to need these three things. The first thing you need to pull off a hostile takeover is you need a hated CEO. This is perhaps the most important thing that you need, because if you have a company with a CEO that everybody loves, you're not going to pull off a hostile takeover because the board is going to listen to the CEO. They're not going to listen to you. What you want to find is you want to find the most hated CEOs in America, because these are the people who are weak. These are the people who are not going to have the support of their board. So the lesson here for you business people out there is it's important for CEOs to be liked. because in a takeover threat, you need the board to stand behind you. The second thing you need to pull off a hostile takeover is you need poor performance. You need to find a company that is underperforming. So an example of this would be like if you were to find a company that is a well-known company, it has a great product, and somehow they're making a loss every year. And you look at this company and it boggles your mind, how could they not be making a profit? That's an underperforming company. And one way you can find this is you look at the company's competitors. If the competitors are doing well in the same market and this company is not, that's a sign they're underperforming. And that opens the company up to a takeover threat for someone to come in and say, I can raise this company's performance. So the lesson here is that it's not enough for a CEO just to be liked. You have to deliver results. The third thing you need to pull off a hostile takeover is you need a strategic plan. You need some way to communicate to the shareholders the specifics of what you're going to do if they vote for you. So how are you going to make the company better? Are you going to bring in a better capital structure? Are you going to do better marketing? Are you going to expand into new markets? What are you going to do to make the shareholders more money? Ultimately, this is about money. So shareholders are people who have invested in your company and they want a return. So they want to know, how are you going to increase the price of their shares? The lesson here is that for a hostile takeover, it's not enough to just say, this person's doing a bad job. That's not enough. You also have to say how you can do the job better. So to recap, if you're going to pull off a hostile takeover, you need these three things. You need a hated CEO, you need poor performance, and you need a strategic plan. So just using that criteria as your guidepost, if you were to look at the business landscape today, there are a lot of prime takeover targets. Now, I'm not going to be naming any names here. I'm going to leave that up to you. Even if you have a smaller division of a larger publicly traded company, you have a case to come in and improve the performance of that division, because that division is destroying the value of all the shareholders. The most important thing I want you to understand about hostile takeovers is that it's all about productivity. Productivity is the true driver behind business. So productivity drives stock price and productivity drives shareholder voting. So in a business, when their productivity starts to go down, that's opening the door for takeover threats. And in a hostile takeover, somebody is just coming in and saying, I can do things better. I can raise this company's productivity. So if you're in business, understanding your productivity is so important for your future success. This is a really interesting topic. If you learned anything new, go ahead and leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. And if you liked this video, hit that subscribe button. The best way to supercharge a business is through accounting and corporate finance, and I release a new video every week, so come back and check out next week's video.